Hi guys, I am here to read you guys the third chapter of our book that we've been reading, The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. So if you have not gotten a chance to listen to chapter 1 and chapter 2, make sure that you do that before you listen to the chapter today. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and pick up where we left off last time. I think that the kitten Ivan has just been discovered on top of Rodeo, the dad, on top of his face. So we're gonna see, and he doesn't know about Ivan yet. So we're going to see what happens. All right, this is chapter 3 of The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. Hope you guys enjoy it. I would have gulped, but I was afraid the noise would wake Rodeo. I breathed in quiet and easy as I could and breathed back out. Rodeo is a reliably heavy sleeper. I once got 6 grapes into his mouth before he woke up, but even I knew this was going to be tough. I made my way toward Rodeo's sprawled body, one silent step at a time. The floor creaked beneath me. "Quiet, Jaeger," I prayed soundlessly. I snuck to within tickling distance of Rodeo's dirty-soled feet and shot him a quick side-eye. Walking around barefoot in gas station parking lots doesn't do the bottoms of your feet any favors on the cleanliness front, I promise. I made a mental note to do a better job of remembering to throw on some flip-flops in the future. I crept past his hairy toes. He was laying sideways in his blanket nest, so I was able to shuffle myself right up to his middle. His head was thrown back, his face turned away from Ivan. His mouth was wide open, and I spied a sunflower shell stuck in his beard. Despite all that, he looked peaceful, laying there snuggling unawares with my Ivan. Peace don't last forever, though. I leaned awkwardly over Rodeo, pinwheeling my arms for a second to keep from toppling right onto him, which would not have been ideal. I set my jaw, concentrated on my balance, and reached out with both hands for the kitten cuddled up in my dad's neck. But then, well, shoot. Then it all went to heck. Something must have made a sound. Maybe it was my heart hammering. Maybe I was breathing too loud through my nose. Maybe Jaeger creaked under my feet. I don't know. But whatever it was, Rodeo's eyes fluttered open. I stood still as a statue, hoping they'd settle right back closed. Instead, they slowly widened and focused on me. His eyebrows furrowed. "Coyote," he said, his voice hoarse with sleep. "What are you doing?" I was standing over him, my hands reached out toward his neck. "Nothing," I answered. He blinked a few times and looked me up and down, still looming like a strangler over him. "Coyote," he said again, "what are you doing?" "Nothing," I repeated, although, to tell the truth, it sounded even stupider the second time. Rodeo cleared his throat. At that moment, Ivan opened his eyes. He blinked at me just like Rodeo had. My heart stopped. He yawned, one of his molar-showing monster yawns. His yawn was soundless, but when he yawned, his whiskers brushed up against Rodeo's neck. Rodeo twitched and raised his hand to scratch at his neck. "No!" I shouted, leaping toward them both. I'm willing to admit it was not the smartest thing to do. Rodeo, understandably startled to wake up and find himself being attacked by his deranged daughter, jumped and screamed and tried to scramble away from me. Ivan, understandably startled to wake up and find his bed suddenly screaming and kicking, did what any cat would do in that situation. He dug all 10 of his razor kitten claws into the nearest object, which, of course, happened to be Rodeo's neck. The results were both instantaneous and dramatic. There was a high-pitched screeching sound that at first I thought was coming from Ivan, but then realized was actually coming out of Rodeo's mouth. He leaped to his feet with the most speed and athleticism I'd seen him muster since the time he surprised a raccoon in a campground outhouse. Ivan, superstar kitten that he was, managed to keep his grip on Rodeo's neck through all the screeching and the leaping. Once Rodeo had shot to an upright position, Ivan decided he'd rather not be attached to a screaming vertical hippie. He disengaged and leaped down to land on the nearby horizontal, silent couch. There was a moment of breathless quiet. Ivan stood with his back arched and all his fur puffed out, looking about as fierce as a 2-pound cotton ball could look. Rodeo stood with wide eyes and bleeding neck, panting and leaning away from Ivan like he was a king cobra about to strike. He was wearing nothing but a ratty pair of tighty-whities and a look of utter shock. I saw my chance to take control of the situation. "Oh," I said to Rodeo with a casual smile, "you're up." Rodeo blinked at me, still breathing fast through his nose, then shook his head. What in the... He rubbed at his neck and his eyebrows shot up when he saw blood on his fingers. "Rodeo," I said pleasantly, "this here's Ivan. Ivan, this is Rodeo." Rodeo shook his head again. "Who is Ivan?" Rodeo's breathing was starting to settle down a bit, and his eyes looked slightly less frantic, so I figured it was a good time to forge ahead. "Ivan is my kitten. I've been meaning to have a talk with you about him." "You have?" "Yes, sir, but I was waiting for a chance for you guys to be formally introduced, which I guess is right now." "Well, Coyote, you picked a way to introduce us," Rodeo said, dabbing tenderly at his neck. "I didn't exactly pick it, Rodeo," I pointed out in my defense, "and your screaming sure didn't help things." But Rodeo shot me a pretty clear look, so I changed course quick. "Look, I'm sorry. I'll admit this wasn't the ideal way to bring up the subject of getting a kitten." "You think?" Rodeo asked, in a tone I thought was unnecessarily nasty. "Easy, man," I said, holding up my hands for calm. "The eggs are already broken, so we may as well enjoy the omelet." "Enjoy the omelet? You know what I'm saying. Let's make the best of this." "And what exactly is this?" "This is me getting a pet." Rodeo sighed and closed his eyes and started to shake his head, so I jumped in quick. "Now listen, I know we've had this conversation before, but this time is different. Ivan and me have really gotten to know each other over the last 18 hours. He is unusually restrained and dignified for a cat of his age. An old soul, Rodeo, a fellow traveler." I could hear my words speeding up, the desperation seeping into my voice. "He was born for the road, and we're already fast friends. You won't even notice him, Rodeo. I promise. He won't be any bother to you, and to me, he'll be... Everything I wanted to finish, but my words cut off. Rodeo tusked his tongue and rubbed his bearded jaw. "Pets, Coyote," he said, shaking his head. "Come on. You know this. Pets, they're a no." He was going to say it. I saw it coming a mile away. Rodeo was going to pronounce pets a no-go. And once Rodeo decided something was a no-go, he never wavered on it. "I need him," I cut in before he could make it official. It wasn't something I'd planned on saying. It just came out. I knew there were plenty of fancier arguments I could make. Arguments about how lonely I was, or how responsible I'd be, or how I'd take care of him all the time and all that. But in the crush of the moment, all those arguments ran away. And I was just left with 3 dumb little words hanging there in the air right between Rodeo's no and his go. Rodeo stopped, his mouth hanging open. His eyes crinkled up. "I need him," I said again, softer. There was a little break in my voice that surprised me, a tightness in my throat I wasn't expecting, a wetness to my eyes I had to blink away quick. Rodeo looked into my swimming eyes. "Yeah," he said, "and that's the problem, sugar. It ain't good to need things that you can lose." "Please, Rodeo," I said, and I said it right into those ever-loving eyes of his. "Aw, honey pie," he said. His voice wasn't much more than a whisper. I didn't say anything. He blew a big breath out through his lips. He stepped toward me and reached up with a thumb and wiped at a tear that was tickling down my cheek. He shook his head again, but this time there was a smile hiding in his beard. "Well," he said, and held out his hands, "let me see the little guy." I didn't dare let the little flutter of hope in my heart take wing, but I stooped down and scooped up Ivan, who'd calmed down back into a normal kitten shape and size. I placed Ivan's warm little self into Rodeo's grubby hands. Rodeo cupped him in his hands, turned him around nice and easy, and then held the kitten up to his face. Ivan's whole precious little body nestled in front of one of Rodeo's palms. Ivan sat, happy as you please, in Rodeo's hand. He took Rodeo's unblinking gaze and gave it right back to him. He didn't meow or tremble or purr or wiggle. That wasn't Ivan's way. And Rodeo didn't ooh or ah or make kissy sounds. That wasn't Rodeo's way. Those two just stood there a minute looking at each other. But something must have passed between them, between that skinny kitten and the scruffy hippie. I saw it in Rodeo's eyes. They didn't go distant. They sparkled and softened. He blew out a resigned breath. "Darn it, Coyote," he said, but he said it soft. That little hope in my heart stretched its wings just a bit wider. His eyes left Ivan's and found mine. "We'll give him a test. 200 miles. My hope started fluttering for real. Mile tests were something Rodeo and I did from time to time, trying something out, a new album to listen to, a different flavor of air freshener, whatever. It was a waiting period to see if we liked something, to see if it fit with our distinctive scene. 1,000 miles, I countered. 500, he said. Final offer. I stuck out my hand and he shook it with his free one. Ivan perched in his other hand the whole time, watching the negotiation. Thanks, Rodeo. You won't regret it. Well, we'll see about that. He wakes me up like that again. He's heading straight out the nearest window. I grinned. That was quite a launch you pulled off there, old man. You darn near hit your head on the ceiling. It was not funny, he said, but I could see him fighting his own smile. You were shrieking like a dang car alarm, I added through a laugh. He shook his head, but his smile broke through clear this time. I thought a badger had snuck on the bus and gone from a jugular, he said. Took 10 years off my life. Ah, it's good for you. Gives your heart some exercise. Rodeo snorted, then narrowed his eyes appraisingly at Ivan. Don't get too attached, Pudding Pop. 500 miles, that's all he gets. I reached out and took Ivan back, holding him warm against my stomach. Rodeo wiped his hand off on his belly. Please, like Ivan had any germs Rodeo had to worry about catching. Rodeo jerked his head toward the front of the bus. Write down the mileage. The sooner we can get to 500 miles and bid this bundle of trouble farewell, the better. I rolled my eyes. Put some pants on, I said. I'm in the mood for biscuits and gravy. All right, that's the end of chapter 3. So next week we'll read more, find out if Coyote gets to keep her kitten. What do you guys think? I don't know. All right, I will see you guys on your next library day. Bye.